We are back with Jo Franco. We're closing out. This has flown by. This has been amazing. I've had so much fun talking with you. And I always tell people, no matter what we're talking about, we always have to talk about joy. And I don't think this is going to be a very hard thing for you to talk about. You are just a joyful, bubbly person by nature. But I want to know, what brings Jo joy?
Kelley, it's so tough. I think I love languages, and I always
Yes.
learn new languages because it's like a cheat code to living more life.
Yeah.
I think when you I don't know, when you're happy and you just want to multiply that joy, you got to find loopholes. So for me, it's languages. It's literally like, let me learn a bunch of languages so I can build different lives all over the world and meet more people and access more joy. I think for me, people, it's always been people. Actually, no, it hasn't always been people because I didn't know that I could be this outgoing person. Because again, growing up introspective and like not really knowing how to communicate and express myself and showing up, I wasn't showing up as my authentic self. But the more layers I shed and became more myself, the more people I attracted that were people that I fell in love with, people that became huge parts of my life. And the cool thing is, I always say, like, you haven't met your favorite people yet, which is kind of true and kind of not true. Now, for me, I've met so many of my favorite people, but there's always a thought in the back of my mind, like, I haven't met all of my favorite people yet. What I really love, my favorite thing, is being able to be the catalyst for other people connecting. And this is why anything that I've done, whether it was for my first chapter on YouTube, where I created this travel business so I could connect different travelers to each other and I would host in-person events, or now with Jo Club, the journaling club, where I host these online these online sessions and these retreats in person, and I get to introduce other people. I always tell people, like, you think you're here because you follow me, but really what you don't know is you're here to connect to people that'll be important for the rest of your life. That is what I love. I love gathering people. I love being the catalyst and being like, hey, it's not about me, it's about y'all, and kind of creating the space of beautiful connection. That is what brings me joy. That is why I wake up every day and I work really hard. And another thing that's been really interesting is remembering that I love collaboration, true collaboration. So my first chapter in entrepreneurship was with a business partnership, and we were really business partners, 50-50. We do everything together, and there was so much more that you could accomplish when you have this partnership in someone else because you have someone that you're accountable to. And then when I did the Netflix show, I had two co-hosts where they were basically partners, right? So you show up and you do your best job so you can make them shine. And I don't know if you knew this or if anybody's talked about this, but chemistry, when you have on-camera chemistry, it's nothing more than making the person that you're with seem like the coolest person ever. So this is collaboration in my eyes. And after the Netflix show, when I started building Jo Club, I was building it by myself. It was the first business from scratch that I was doing 100% by myself. I'm staying up late and I'm coding and I'm building tech and all this like crazy stuff no one ever thinks about. And it was dark. It was a dark, lonely time for the first 2-3 years. And then I started onboarding freelancers, and then I started getting more help, and then I started training facilitators. And now Jo Club is this amazing community, not only just of the clients that are in the club, but the people who work with me to make it happen. That to me gives me so much joy. And to be able to grow people and to invest in them, it's like super cool. Is there anything cooler? I don't think there is.
I would agree. That is the thing, the joy. Like, that's what I love most about podcasting, is the ability to connect people, or people to be connected by words, or to connect in a community, in an experience. And I do think that there's a lot of joy in that. And I love that. I think that's great. And so my follow-up question is always like, well, if the relationships are important to you, and being this catalyst, and, learning languages because it accesses you more joy for you, how do you then go about protecting it so you are not overwhelmed or doing too much or ignoring those parts of yourself that bring you joy?
This goes back to episode 2 of what we've covered of the journaling. A lot of people who followed my career since 2012 when I first started, and I started with Young Travel Show, kind of like traveling on the dime. Went from there all the way to like flying first class, filming a Netflix show, and then I landed on journaling. And people who follow that whole journey, they're like, how did you do that? And I'm like, girl, good question. And to be honest, it's always been brainstorming on the page and how I even reached the truth of me always journaling, of me being consistent with writing and documentation. I only was able to unlock that and really see that clear as day. Even though I've been journaling since I was like 7 years old, I didn't see that was such a big part of me until I sat down and I did some work where I was like, what have I always done? And then I started putting things on the page. What have I always loved doing? And then you chisel, and you get closer and closer to the truth. And then I ended on a few different variables. It was language, people, travel, documentation, leadership. And then I kind of created this bubble. And I'm like, okay, how do I build as many things around that contain these beautiful key ingredients that I know have always and most likely will always give me joy? And after I started planting the seeds of, okay, maybe it's a community, maybe it's I didn't really know what it was. And this is when the universe gives you back and collaborates with you when you take action. So when I posted my journal entry, didn't know it would turn into a big, beautiful business, but I read my DMs and I took the challenge where someone asked, hey, Jo, challenge us. I'm like, let's start tomorrow. So you can do 50% of the work, I think, in being introspective and carving out what is very important to you. The other 50% is listening, taking inspiration from the world, and taking action on the new variables that come your way. How do I protect my joy? I know that these are the things that I love. And whenever an opportunity comes to me, I have to be very honest with myself. And this is something that I think you refine the busier you get, because you realize I only have 100%. And I have to make sure that this opportunity, it's not always the financially lucrative one. Most of the times it's not. A lot of the things that I do aren't the most well paid, but if they teach me a skill, if they give me a reason to learn a skill, especially a skill that I've been wanting to learn, if it becomes an experience that gets me closer and gives me access to people that I'm inspired by, therefore relationships, and if it's a place where I can become more creative and have more visionary ideas, those to me are the three things that I need in any opportunity that I take. If the opportunity comes to me and it doesn't check at least two of those three boxes, then I don't take it. Because if I don't have these three things in my life consistently, I won't be happy. And I've had moments in my life where I made a lot of money, but I wasn't meeting anybody new. I wasn't collaborating. I wasn't having any inspiring ideas. I wasn't growing. I wasn't learning. And I'm like, what good is this money if I feel like crap? And what's funny is when I check all of these indirect variables, quote unquote, because they're the most valuable in my opinion, but they're indirect because most people just think money. But when I check relationships, creativity, and growth and skill and just in life experience, when I check those three things, the money comes 10x. And that's the wildest part of all. So I tell people, yeah, my biggest contracts have come from doing a lot of work for free, and then the right person seeing my passion showing up without even getting paid. And then I get a paycheck with like a giant amount of numbers on it. But I didn't do the initial thing for free thinking that that would come. I had no idea of knowing, but I was just so aligned with what I loved that the passion was so infectious that then opportunities come. It's a dance. It's a dance because I've also been in a position where I have a giant amount of debt and you can't afford to do things for free. And therefore you have to take some sacrifice and you have to do 2 times the work. There's a dark period where, I'm working 3 jobs. But eventually when you outgrow that, because you will, you get to a place of being able to choose. And when you choose, the choice to make is always the one that is most aligned with what really makes you feel alive, not what's going to pay the most amount of money.
Yeah, I feel like if there's one thing I wish people would learn, and I always say this, if there's anything you could take away from this podcast or what I talk about, for what is central to me, is that when you lead with joy, everything follows. As I got more clear with my career choices about what actually, and I had my criteria, I have my 3 things that it's like, I choose a job based on these 3 things. If I can be creative, I can be passionate, if I can be authentic, I'm in. And it may be less money in the front end, but as you refine that, you find the money follows. Whatever, if you're concerned about accolades or an award or something, that all shows up when you lead with joy. And then you set those boundaries, which is that criteria is the boundaries, right? The criteria, when you set boundaries, you lead with joy and you set boundaries to protect it, you get the life you want. And it shows up 10 times more, like you said. Yes, it doesn't mean there won't be hard moments, but it always arrives and it always becomes, there's more abundance than you think is waiting for you when you lead in that way. And so the goal, to bring us all full circle, is to know what that is. Like, know what brings you joy, know how to protect it. And journaling is such a key way, and a key way to establish that, a key way to check where you are on the journey. Like, am I honoring what I think is most important? Let me go write about that and really think about that and process it. Let me be grateful, because that's joy, and it boomerangs back. That becomes such a key part of the journey to preserving your joy and discovering your joy and multiplying it in your life. And so, Jo, thank you so much. Any closing thoughts from you before we head out? And then how can we connect with you?
Yes, I feel like this is a part one of many, many more chats that I would love to have with you.
Yes, I love hearing that. I am very going to be catching, like, I will hold you to that. So let's just start there.
Let's have a coffee virtually. No, I want to leave everybody with the thought of, it's crazy that we're born into this world and no one really gives us a framework or a guideline, or even tells us that it's so important to have emotional, mental, spiritual hygiene. I literally call it hygiene. When I journal, it's like I'm flossing my soul. And it's, not everybody flosses, let's be honest. And so this is something that the more I speak to high-performing people and folks that really do have a great grasp on what makes them happy, and they have families and they have kids and they have a beautiful budding business, it's not always perfect, let's be real. However, they do invest a lot of time into their self connection, their connection to the self. When you're a visionary, when you're an entrepreneur, there is no playbook. There is no, here's the exact road. You go here and you get a promotion and you kiss this boss's butt and then you get another. We don't have that. And if you are creating your own path, you must know how to connect to the deepest truth of yourself, because otherwise you'll build something that you don't even like. And that was part of my first chapter, where I started outgrowing what I built. And in order to get back to a place of authenticity, it took a lot of work and journaling and pages and being honest with myself, and then creative problem solving. But yeah, I think if anybody listening just spends 5 minutes today journaling on a napkin, like you said, just write down a list of your favorite memories from the past month, the past 6 months, the past year, and start looking at that and see if you can connect some dots and see if you can add more of that into your week's plan. And little by little, you start seeing that this hobby that you thought was just a Dear Diary is actually the secret superpower into you creating and designing your dream life. That, to me, would make me very happy.
Jo, how can we connect with you? I'm not adding anything to that. That was beautiful. How can we connect with you?
I'm always checking my DMs on Instagram at Jo_Franco. So yeah, I'm there. I'm also on YouTube, youtube.com/JOFRANCO/Jo Franco. And my Netflix show is pretty fun, The World's Most Amazing Vacation Rentals. And if you want to start journaling, we're always hosting Journaling 101 workshops that are free. And so you can visit joclub.world/burnout, because I made a special page for you guys. And I hope to see you live. We just love connecting the world and showing people that journaling is not this crazy thing that's off limits. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just a tool for you to connect to yourself. That's all that matters.
Oh, we will be there on that page. We will be there. I know for sure. I'm like first in line to be there. So, Jo Franco, thank you for coming on the podcast. This has been a fantastic conversation, and hopefully one of many more to come.
Thanks, Kelley. See you soon.